Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LGL officially unofficial cast. I am still your host with the most, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, by Master One on the internet. Of course, I am joined by the Good Brother, insatiable duo of Initialize and Nymera. Gentlemen, we've got a one-on-one series. It's a best of 3 now. This is definitely shaping up.
You're the host with the most, we're the casters with the least pixels.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw that. Unfortunately, not too much we can do about that. We're kind of at the whim of our internet service providers. Just
London,
like it seems
please.
like both these teams are kind of at the whim of the early game, actually. It looks like one early game going very handily to each team. Although, I mean, in game 2, obviously the lanes were going very far in the favor of DFM. A series of very quick plays turned that around very quickly.
Yeah, and it turns out this guy in the jungle, this guy called Boogie, don't know if you've heard of
Tell
him.
me more.
Right, so he's this import,
Tell
like
it
an
to me.
ex-Flash Wolves jungler. Like, this is
Crazy.
amazing, like superstar guy.
Say it like it is.
Had a bit of a dodgy game 1, but comes into this game 2, picks the Graves up again, and deletes kids. Like the lethality Graves this time was doing so much more.
I'm getting WWE vibes of like delete. Anyone that gets that reference, I appreciate you, because there's gonna be like
See, I just
1%.
see that from Quick Shot.
Yeah, quick shots.
It's
right?
Quick Shot bingo, just deletes.
That's it.
Oh, see, okay, whatever.
We can aspire to be those people.
My
Yes.
WWE memes
I
are
was trying
very
to do a Matt Hardy thing, but whatever.
Okay, yeah.
It's fine.
Sorry about that,
Everyone remembers the Hardy Boys when they were cool in the 90s, but that's beside the point. Are we going to see Set talking about these junglers? Because we've seen double Setban come through from the side of V3 Esports. There's always a way to link it back in. There's always a way.
Yeah, sure. I think that for me, 2 of my biggest concerns for V3 in game 1 were Boogie kind of not finding a way into the game, and also Ace just having Ace's champion pool going towards the Zoe didn't really work out.
Yeah,
This time they went towards something with a bit more roaming potential, a bit more teamfight potential, particularly even when you were behind in a game, and it worked out wonders for V3. So 2 of my big concerns, handily addressed in game 2.
Yeah, I
And,
mean,
that
sorry.
damage graph. Whew.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the post-game breakdown in front of us. This damage graph is insane, isn't it, Initialize?
Yeah, I'm looking specifically over at this Graves who
Look at
did
Trundle.
literally 20,000 more damage than the Trundle, who would try to get in and swiftly would be deleted, who only did a measly 4,000 odd damage.
That's
this
literally
game.
6 times more damage.
That is pretty absurd.
6 times more damage than this jungle opponent.
That
Jungle,
is massive.
jungle diff, right? Like,
This time around, oh yeah, Boogie had a great game.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's just impressive is like we're seeing that the Yuumi and the Zoe pulled respect out from DFM this round in the pick and ban phase. We also saw a completely different kind of draft coming from DFM this time round as opposed to the last draft. I want to get your thoughts on that if I can.
So I think that the lock-in of the Vladimir early kind of showed that the early game was going to be something which could be contested, particularly on the top side of the map. From the Graves this time, when you're playing against the Ornn and yourself, as soon as the Ornn hits level 6, you need to be very careful whenever you're in that topside river, because as we saw in the Herald fight, right, as soon as the Ornn ult comes in, it turns around so many big things, and the Vladimir was not ready to fight in the early stages of the game. The bot lane 2v2 was kind of in isolation in its own little thing, right? I mean, the early dive with the Trundle flash being blown, that was pretty big. The hook landing, even bigger, right? But the top side of the map was always going to go more towards the side of V3, particularly with that Vladimir versus Ornn matchup in the early game.
Yes.
And there was a Graves on the field.
I mean, this is really pulling to be interesting. The Syndra got through, but then the Rumble was the response from the side of V3. It just seems like there's a lot of things going around. There's a lot of weird parts. I mean, do you ban the Graves and then give Boogie the Elise? Or the Rek'Sai's now open as well?
I don't think you want to give him Rek'Sai. I think
there's
that's a bad idea.
Well, Rek'Sai was allowed through, but he still first picked that Graves. I mean, there's a lot of questions around here that both sides are playing very differently that we've seen throughout playoffs so far, I think.
I think there's also an element here of I think DFM aren't going to be too hard done by their draft. I think they were pretty happy with what they got mostly.
Yeah.
But and then you saw the lanes were going well. But the thing they have to clean up is effectively that frankly it's some of their objective contesting. They're like, particularly around that Rift Herald, particularly around some of the dragons, they would sort of wander in and get themselves blown up. And the fact that Boogie managed to find multiple bushes to just jump on people in isn't good enough. And that was more of an issue for me than
I mean,
drafting.
they lost the team fight when they had Ella Dragon.
Yeah, that shouldn't have happened.
That's pretty big. As middle, you're playing against a gold deficit and also a mountain soul. That's big, but losing with Elder Dragon,
Mhm.
that rarely happens.
I mean,
In a
that-
4 versus 5. No.
That was their way in. That was their way in. They were somehow able to secure that Elder Drake. Like,
Yeah, it was a really good series of picks. Utopon's Varus has been phenomenal.
It's been
actually.
very
It's been
good.
very good.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we talked about Archer in game one, because the spotlight was on him because he was doing all of his team's damage. Utopon in both of these games has been finding piercing arrow onto even the Callista. Right, Callista
Yes.
has ways to dodge skill shots. She's hopping around with quite a lot, but the damage which has been landing before the team fights really start in earnest has been so big in terms of trying to really just pin down Archer in these team fights. Of course, Archer had a really good game himself on the Callista eventually, flashing forward to kill the Syndra or try and contest that Syndra. Good Fates calls as well. And it helps that you have an enabling pick for Reyna, who was doing so well in himself.
He was.
But I think the Varus has been a real, much like their series versus Sengoku, it's been a really big pick for DFM.
This is a Varus versus a Rumble, no less.
I mean, this is definitely shaping up. I'm interested to see how the kind of teams keep feeling each other out. This is obviously the point where V3 were 0-2 versus Crest
CGA,
Gaming
yeah.
Act. And this was also a spot where DFM, I believe in their series versus Sengoku, were actually also 1-1.
1-1, yeah. They
At
lost
this
game
spot.
1, won game 2 against Sengoku.
Yeah, so this is familiar ground for DFM, though the familiar ground that they don't really want to be in because they don't want a repeat of what happened.
Yeah.
But V3 have to be feeling confident about getting that win. That's the second time versus DFM they've got a win, and that they're 2-2 at the moment. The only other team that was able to
This fight,
defeat them is the current team that's waiting for them in
Finalist.
the finals, right? That will
Yeah.
be happening tomorrow, and that must be terrifying, but almost invigorating for the team, right? That's motivation that can be done. Gods do bleed, as we've seen before.
Yeah. And hopefully it'll be a better movie than Batman vs Superman, if I'm honest.
Oh,
Like,
That was the reference we
Really?
decided to go for.
I
Do you
set
bleed?
you up for the whole SKT1, Gods bleeding, Fall, and
nah. Awful superhero movies. That's what we're going with.
Yeah.
at least
This
That's
is
why
all
we're
about
setting that up.
my
I had
brother.
way more fun than I did watching that movie.
This
least-
is my problem with my brother's taste in movies.
at least just say Green Lantern because everybody admits that that's a
True.
terrible film. Like
It was very bad. It's
very
almost
bad.
like, crime against community, really. Like, society should not have let that stand. Anyway, I mean, like,
it's almost as much a crime as that really bad face check into the first Herald.
Ooh.
that was really quite
It
bad.
was
yeah.
quite bad.
And I mean, of course,
And that was a
a
massive turning point.
it was a big turning point, right? Because at that point in the game, V3 knew they had the advantage. They had the top lane difference in particular at that point because,
they did.
when you've got a cull on Vladimir, doesn't have to do much. Whereas Ornn just does a lot with his base kit without any items built up, no CDR and all this other stuff. Steel walks into a hook. Steel is a very proficient frontliner in a lot of games,
Mhm.
and he's been a legacy Trundle player. Trundle has been arguably his most famous pick for me in a lot of ways. He played it out of meta last split.
He did.
This game, unlike the first game where he could kind of tank up very efficiently, it just didn't work this game. There was way too much damage from all sources, lots of different varying types of damage, magic damage and physical damage, and you just couldn't stand up to it.
But a way that they were able to counter that off was top lane Ebby and Cirrus in the mid lane were doing incredible, weren't they? They had like 30-40 CS
Yeah.
lead at some point.
But how many times did that lead to a team fight win?
That was a problem because DFM were struggling to find their ways into fights. We saw once or twice where Ebby and Saros TP'd very aggressively and were very swiftly picked up by Reyna in particular. He was landing
Yeah.
some very good hooks.
That particular one around that last dragon fight, actually, that was big.
And you could see what DFM were looking for, thinking, fantastic, we've got the engage. And they were just going a little bit hard and not quite finding what they wanted. And part of that was Boogie putting up mad damage. Part of that was Reyna really stunting a lot of these flanks.
I mean, it is going to be interesting. This bot lane, I don't know how I feel about it. It seems very equal. I want to get your thoughts on that quickly.
I think in lane, DFM have really indexed getting priority in that lane, and largely they've been finding CS and sort of pressure leads.
Well, game one, it was pretty even in terms of CS, but pressure
A
was
bit of pressure, and
DFM's.
then they got
Yeah.
the plates, right? And then eventually
true.
but the kind of the second game is what I will say is I think Reyna in particular has been
Superman.
really
In a better
clutch
movie.
at specifically nullifying a lot of what DFM wanted to do. There's been multiple times that Archer has survived because of really good play from Reyna. And you saw that in the tower dive that kind of went wrong. It was just very good play from that in particular. So I think largely, I think DFM have done a very good job of trying to bully that lane. But I think Reyna in particular has done a great job of stopping that leading to serious advantages. And in fact, in that last game, turning it around.
Well, with that all said, we're about to go into pick and ban phase, so let's find out how these teams decide to go for this one round. Take it away, lads.
Okay, well, so V3 back on the blue side for game 3 in this glorified best of 3, as we were saying. And we're starting out with some tried and trusted bans from both sides. So Sengoku didn't find it necessary to ban the Heimerdinger later on into their series versus DFM. V3 still wanting to ban that and still wanting to ban the set away from Ebi as well.
They are, and there's the Graves ban. They're done with that, and that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay, right. So the question is, do V3 first pick Varus?
Could well
I mean,
first pick Varus.
Do you want to take that away from DFM? Do DFM have an answer to Varus if that is going to be the pick?
What would you pick as an answer to Varus?
I mean, Rumble's pretty good. I think the Xerath actually would work pretty well
In
too,
lane, what
otherwise.
would you go for in 10.8?
The thing is, if you're going to try and counter in bot lane, I think Ezreal tends to be the pick, which is okay.
Utapon plays a great Ezreal.
It does play good Ezreal as well, and you can play Ezreal Yuumi. But even then, Ezreal Yuumi against the Varus, sometimes you get outpoked in that lane, so something like a Thresh normally goes really well with it. Renekton still going to be banned away from Ebi. This has been
Cannot give him that
you
champion.
cannot give him that champion. The 2 wins against Sengoku, as we said in the last Champions Life, were for DFM versus Sengoku were with the Renekton. Ebi just won lane, he won team fights, he won the game.
You know what might also be free for DFM here? Ornn. So if
Yeah,
they don't
true.
first pick the Varus, there is still Ornn available, and Ebi played a very good man. See what they go towards here as the last ban. They banned the Varus.
First
They
pick
don't
Ornn
want to.
sounds pretty juicy here, though.
I think it does. There is a Trundle in response, which is a decent way of dealing with it, but I need to see what a DFM do because I don't think Trundle's enough frontline. It was shown in that last game.
Yeah, and I think that DFM, so obviously they would have elected to take red side because the loser gets to choose side choice. They will have a counter pick of their choice somewhere on the map, whether that's in mid lane, support, or top lane, or wherever really. It's up to them. So remember, LeBlanc is up and available. It has been one of Ace's better champions. There's stuff like the Rek'Sai available for Boogie as well. Looks like Ebi's going to be hovering at that Trundle for Steel. It is going to be locked in first.
It is, and we'll see what their response is here. We know Trundle has been a good champion for Steel. He played it well in the game 1. Game 2 was a little bit more suspect. I mean, he shadowed Boogie well in the early game, but one thing started snowballing. He was just dying a lot.
Okay.
The Aphelios is up, and yes, it's nerf, but Utapon plays a great Aphelios. And without the Varus there to really punish him, I think this Aphelios probably a little safer to go with.
Yeah, so Aphelios got really hit in this last patch of 10.8. This is the point where his abilities, his Q ability has a scaling factor to it now rather than just having this flat base value throughout the game. I'm trying to remember if also his, I believe his percent armor penetration also went into lethality as well on this patch. So he's really not in the same state which we've known Super Carrier Aphelios to be. We'll see what V3 wants to do in response to this. If they look in the Rek'Sai, V3 have not lost with this pick. They are 4-0 with that pick in this split so far. It is locked in. So early game jungle this time for Boogie.
Yeah, and Rek'Sai for Boogie is, as
Terrifying?
you said,
Yeah.
terrifying. He has done really, really good stuff. And like he's been struggling to get into Steel's jungle the last few games. With a Rek'Sai, I think he's going to be
Tremor sense
more
is
than
huge
willing
as
to
well,
do some
yeah.
stuff. And of course, we've seen Steel shadow Boogie very well and sort of stop him from doing as much as he would like. But for now, that's in. It's less of the hard farming outscaling jungler, at least maybe.
Okay.
But the Galio is locked in for either Ace or for Reyna.
Right. So what this means is that if you have the Galio here, you can put that. So you can either dive in with the Rek'Sai or have the Ornn come in from a flank and all this other stuff. Remember, Galio was banned away from V3 in game 2 by DFM in the round 2 of bans. Yeah, that is an Aurelion Sol being hovered.
But, it wouldn't be. It would be a pick he would go for. He has played it in the past, but I think they're thinking about the Ziggs, which would make a little bit of sense.
Right,
Keep
okay.
things at a distance.
I am a little worried about that because Rek'Sai is pretty good about getting on top of Ziggs in the early game. When it comes to late game team fights and stuff, yeah, sure, Ziggs can keep it at arm's length. And we saw this in one of DFM's victories versus Sengoku, right? They played double Glacial, they played a Syndra bot lane, and they played with the GLP, and they played Ziggs with a GLP in the mid lane, and they just couldn't walk up to the team. It was horrible.
Couldn't walk up the same. It was horrible.
Okay,
with the
Syndra's banned away from Ace.
They're reckoning this is probably a Galio support. Then remember, Callista still on the table. Galio Callista is a pretty good combo, and we saw Archie do a pretty good job on that in the last game. Might well be a LeBlanc ban here from DFM as well. Then if they're thinking,
it could also
that way.
be something like a Senna locked in as well.
Yeah,
Senna works pretty well when you're doing the kind of the non-farming, the fasting Senna.
Giving Galio some CS not a bad idea.
Yeah, exactly, and you can kind of build the Galio AP that way, and you have actually a lot of burst. Galio's also remember Galio has been buffed on patch 10.7. That's the one I remember that now, which means that when he ults anyone within his ult circle when he lands, gets the magic shield from his W, which means that it can be quite useful if you're then, trying to deal with the Ziggs turnaround and there's like an extra couple of hundred HP just chucked onto your carries. That can be very useful.
It really can. Thresh taken away by
that's
V3 as well, which is a big one for keeping
It's-
Aphelios
It's
safe.
the
taken off
priority
the board.
lane from
There's the
Lopez.
LeBlanc taken off as well. It was kind of foretold. You don't really want to give Ace that champion if you've already locked in the Ziggs. A bit of a risk to leave that open.
It is. So now we're kind of left wondering, well, what's Archer going to play in the bot lane? It could be something like the
Misfortune,
Ezreal.
Kalista.
It could also be something like a Xayah as well.
Yeah,
He's
that's
a
true.
really proficient Xayah player. Xayah has been.
Zyra Khan is an option.
It could also be, because Galio is still a flex pick. It could also be something like the Misfortune if they're trying to go for full wombo stuff. It could be something like an Ashe, even. I think Ashe was buffed this patch. Her Q, her ranger's focus, gives her now like up to 60% attack speed instead of 40 at max rank, something like that. So it's pretty okay as champion there. DFM do have, of course, themselves they have themselves the counter pick here if they wish.
See what they go towards. They've locked in the Gnar, though. That was a swift lock-in.
It was. Okay, so DFM, they lost 3 games of Gnar against Sengoku.
They did.
Wasn't particularly good. They didn't end up finding a lot of ways to engage around the Gnar because it is so conditional in the way it plays, as opposed to something like the Call of the Forge God, which is just point and click, just press of a button and you have yourself an engage tool. V3 have locked themselves in the Misfortune, and they're going to go for the Yuumi, which means that they have themselves a Galio mid lane Yuumi support.
Yeah, and that is a lot of lockdown for V3. If Rek'Sai goes in, there'll be a Galio joining him, there'll be a Yuumi on top. Misfortune layers a bullet time with the Call of the Forge God. You can see the wombo from a mile away. DFM, on the other hand, are going to want to try and keep people at arm's distance with their 2 carries. And we'll see what their last pick is. Nautilus would be more engaged, and that would really help with the Gnar problem.
It does in a lot of ways, because then you can kind of like not just wait for the Gnar bar, you can go in with the Nautilus, try and then build up to a Mega Gnar throughout the fight as it's then engaged. Trundle Pillar also, again, pretty great versus this team. Because, like, if Galio walks into lane and Trundle is there, like, he can't Justice Punch through the pillar, right? So this is going to be another case where Ace, if he does try and get priority in mid lane without knowing where Steel is on the map, could go very badly for V3.
Yeah, and we can also see, like, just in terms of, like, things like the Sentinel turrets from Aphelios, the Minefield from Ziggs, the Pillar from Trundle, that's quite a lot of area denial control. So, like, there is more CC than perhaps you think from DFM there.
Yeah, there is. And of course, they have the range advantage. But then there's a lot of hard engage options. From
to
V3.
get onto those.
There are. So I think this game should really showcase a very different style of play from both teams. V3 probably not looking to be so passive in the early game. Of course, there's no Varus to be that lane dominant threat in the bot lane now, so that could be very different in the way it plays. Yutapon has been a stellar Aphelios player. Largely, we agree that he was he was the second best AD carry behind Yutori Miyashi, but not by the world's largest margin. This guy is such a warrior in the bot lane. He's been performing very well as split.
I mean,
where are you thinking what are you thinking is going to be the clutch point for these teams? What's the win condition that's going to break this game open?
I think that if Boogie gets one of these lanes significantly ahead, then like DFM can't really do the full court press they'd like to do with all of these technically winning lanes again. So similar to game 2, if there is like one of these lanes goes awry, particularly the bot lane, I think, because if the Misfortune gets ahead of the Aphelios and the Nautilus, then we could start seeing some problems. I think Ord largely nullifies the lane matchup to Gnar. Gnar's going to get priority, but whatever. It's just both of them are going to turn up to team fights at some point. Ace needs to not fall ridiculously far behind on the Galio. We actually saw in DFM's loss to V3 in the regular split, Saros has played the Galio. Didn't work particularly well.
Nope.
We've seen a couple of other games from various other teams in the LGL, particularly SoftBank Hawks. They played a couple of Galio games, and again, we kind of saw what happens when the Galio doesn't cleanly transition into a mid game, be able to roam out onto the map first, get himself up with the ultimates. It's really difficult if Galio falls behind.
What do you think? So, which team do you think came out the top in that draft? Who do you think's got it from that edge there? Was it pretty even?
I like Boogie's Rek'Sai.
I
think the Rek'Sai enables a lot of the team of V3. I am going to give it to V3. I think that this kind of composition is more of what we've seen from him in the past.
We know they play it well.
We know they play it well. And DFM, we've had questions about Gnar, had questions about them when they don't. Without the Varus, are they going to get priority in the bot lane? Yeah, V3 have a lot of tools to work with in this draft. So I'm tentatively saying V3, you got an edge in this draft.
Yeah. But that is it is a tentative one. And we know from the past that
who knows, man?
is a good going on fantastic Gnar player. The last few games haven't been amazing. They haven't. But having said that, this is a chance for a bit of redemption for
Yeah,
him.
I mean, this guy solo killed Vizichauchi at Worlds last year on his Gnar. This
Yeah,
guy's
like,
pretty
we know
good.
he's good. But we have to see whether DFM can make it work, and thus far, within the playoffs at least, they certainly haven't. And that will be kind of the telling point for me as well, as how effective is this Gnar.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of different win conditions for both teams
Yes.
because Aphelios really good at, you know,
Blowing
dealing
people up?
damage, blowing people up.
Mega Inferno
And
Bomb?
if Aphelios survives the initial engage, you know, there's a lot of low range targets which would struggle to really continue dealing damage onto him. He needs to get caught in the initial engage. Otherwise, things are going to get a bit difficult. I mean, MF has the bullet time to reach through the team fight, but if he flashes out of that, flashes out the knockup from the Rek'Sai as well, U2-1 could really carry this game.
Yeah, he really could. And it's not just that as well. We've got to think that that Ziggs is available. Anybody who's been watching a number of other regions pick that up, deft detonating Teddy on that in a frankly ludicrous display of damage. You know, if you hit that sweet spot on the Mega Inferno Bomb, people can blow up, and Archer in particular is going to have to be very careful not to find his way to hell via that Mega Inferno Bomb.
But remembering back to game one, of course, Archer popped off in the
Yeah,
MF.
he did.
And the only reason he really died is because the huge burst damage, which is available from both Xerath and from the Varus, right?
Mhm.
And that was set up by an Ornn,
Yes.
which is also pretty bursty in the short kind of combos. Without those three heavy burst picks, if this Misfortune gets rolling in this game, I think this is going to be even better for Archer than it was in game one, particularly because there's a lot more people there to peel for him this time. You have a Yuumi, but this time you got a Galio. You have the Ornn, you have the Rek'Sai. There's a lot of CC from the rest of your team members to make sure that MF can keep free firing.
What that MF will have to be aware of, though, is that Gang is running a Nautilus, and that depth charge could really make her day
True.
suffer. They're going for an invade. Archer has spotted it out pretty early on, and he's going to back his way away. He's going to back through that bush, and he's alive for now.
He hasn't been seen. Okay.
Oh, he hasn't
been seen now.
But they know they're spotted. They're wandering through with 5 men strong, and with the Nautilus level 1, I can understand why they think this is a good idea.
Exactly. And what this means is that there will be a tracked jungle start probably from both sides. If anyone's been watching Tarzan's recent streams, a bit of a controversial figure, but someone who definitely knows his game knowledge, he thinks that early ward onto a buff is the most valuable ward in the game. It allows you to path effectively. And if there's anyone we trust with pathing, most of the time it's going to be Boogie. But of course, Steel is no slouch himself. So tools for both junglers to understand what's going to happen in this early game.
Yeah, they are. And it looks like it'll be a red start for both teams. V3 waiting in this bush, seeing whether someone turns up.
They're just going to go towards the red buff, though.
Yeah. Of course, that fancy new Rek'Sai skin coming out.
Oh, Ebby might try and see if he can poke them out here.
He is, and he's got the range. He can certainly do that. There won't be a tunnel or anything available. Just going to be a real dick here if he can. Ebby's going to throw out the Qs. The boomerang blades coming out.
Yeah, that sounds like Gnar in a match.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That being said, I'm a Quinn player, so I can't.
You are a Quinn player. You are the worst kind of player.
I am actually the worst person known to man.
Traditional top lane carries are screaming at you somewhere. Both bot lanes are in lane in time for the wave. Ebby's up in the top side. He's running Conqueror. Is Conqueror Rek'Sai always worth checking out whether he's gone towards the Halo Blades or something as well? Or
yeah, sure. Yeah, Quinn is their side. So what this means, because we've got a trade in jungle sides, it's going to be vertical jungling. And that normally means that, you know, the side which your lane is on is going to be the dominant side of the map, the strong side of the map. And having that for an Aphelios, pretty important. And we were talking about if MF gets rolling, it's pretty big. Actually, it looks like V3 are going to walk straight into Steel here.
They do. It's going to be a bit of trade back and forth. Archer and
There's
Reyna winning that. There's an exhaust down on Steel. He's got to be a bit careful here. The double up might be something he has to be afraid of.
There is a heal from... Okay. But it does look like at least not all the Krugs are taken there. It's an exhaust down from the Yuumi, but yeah, okay.
They trade a lot of their health bars there.
No flash away from Steel, though.
No, it's the big one where they land the hook, and that forces a heal out of Reyna, and that's a big one with the onslaught down as well, and the Calibrum Q lands as well. So yeah, that one sucks.
It does suck pretty bad, but at least level 2 is incoming. They're going to have Barrier, of course, on the Misfortune as well. Two summoners away. Yeah, Boogie's coming down as well. No wards have been left behind, but there looks like a zombie ward or a zombie poro or something like that in that Tri-Brush there. So this is what we were talking about, man. Pillar onto Galio at this point in the game. It's really annoying.
It really is. See how he does. He's on the right side of the page thing for this. Frozen Domain goes down. The pillar's good. It might force the flash. The taunt's there, though.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's going to stop things. Actually, that's a fantastic satchel, and that forces the flash.
Ace, dude, you gotta know where Steel is to try and push up like that. This is the second time in as many games, really, from game one.
Boogie's over the wall. He
sees
is
the
gonna put-
Tremor Sense.
That's it. He's going to get a fair amount of damage out. Flash in now from Steel, who's in a different
Oh, he gets
position.
first
And
blood!
that bite was huge, and they're going to jump
Red buff.
onto Seros as well. The red buff is big. Seros might have to flash. Does have to.
That's huge.
But that's a big flash in the bot lane. They burnt the barrier. Remember, there's nothing left now for Archer. He's in a very, very difficult spot.
Oh.
But that means flash and barrier now burn for the bot lane carry of Archer.
It does, but that means it's flash away from the Ziggs, and I would actually put that in the favor of DFM because Boogie is so good at his pathing, has himself
You
the
mean
early
V3?
scuttles. Yeah, that one V3 there. I'm sorry, but you know why it is?
Because
the
they've
label-
not changed the
they
around
haven't
the top
changed
of
the
the
labels at the top of the screen. They're baiting
It's all
me.
their fault. I agree. Continue. I forgive you.
The red buff on Boogie is so huge in chasing down Seros that production is absolutely laughing their asses off. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the best vision skills ever.
The amount of times you mock me for having glasses and you don't. What is this?
No, that's just my attention
Sibling
span.
rivalry.
One of my other co-casters and one of my other broadcasts has a running joke that color casters are actually functionally blind.
Yeah, I mean, you are. It's true. It's very true. But the push continues on this bot side, and this is what we've seen from DFM a couple games
Oh,
in
this
a
is pretty
row.
bad. There's no flash here.
There is no flash. The pillar's decent, but it's not enough. But the hook is fantastic. Reyna's leaving his carry to die, and Archer is shut down early on into this lane.
That's just a bit of greed there, trying to defend that tower. It's a full wave going to be pushed in. Already a couple of levels down, level 3 to
There's
level
another
4.
plate as well.
There's another plate. Steel's going to get himself a Krug camp. Boogie just wasn't on that side of the map. Perhaps you can turn that around into 3v3, but the communication wasn't there for V3 to really make that stick.
Yeah, and good work from Steel to punish that bot side. He turns up in the right place. The pillar comes down. Gang lands the hook. And it's lights out for Archer, who's been
20
put
CS
into
down
a
already.
very difficult spot in this lane. All 4 summoners burnt within a few minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty hush.
It was a very aggressive contest on that Krug camp early on that meant there wasn't the.
If they
the
managed to get a
summoners
flush out of Trundle, that would have been really big. Of course, it didn't end up mattering. The Trundle still died in that mid lane 2v2. Boogie really showing up big there. Boogie is still, farming his way pretty well. He's going to be really strong in this game. And this is why we love seeing Boogie on this champion. He's 4-0, as we were saying, and hopefully trying to make it 5-0. His early game has been spectacular on this champion.
He is on a ward, though, and that's going to prevent that one from being so good.
Level
There's,
6
a
hit
there's
points.
matching wards there, actually, looking over that.
Yeah.
And the second control ward goes down. This river control is pretty strong from V3. They can't do anything about the Scuttle Crab, but because it's timing out, means that for now, Boogie has pretty much sole control down here, and he's coming down to the bot side. Steel will be
actually,
around,
Scuttle
though.
just timed out. It looks like the junglers have found each other. So these 2v2s both know that the junglers are on that side of the map.
They do. Boogie might come and contest, got to level up. Steel has no flash, might be in trouble here, but he has to be a bit aware
no
of what's going on.
flash.
Yeah, that's the smite down. Level 5 is at least up.
Galio
Galio
ult.
coming down, but Frozen Domain's a thing, and that means that not a lot gained there.
That pillar was huge, actually.
It was big, and Steel's been doing a good job with those pillars thus far.
I think that maybe if he pops that slightly earlier, they can get the chain CC from the knock up into that. Gang's looking for a hook though.
Well, might well be, and Gang's kind of around, but it's a 3 versus 3. And they land the
Teleport.
hook, and there's still no flash available.
Teleport
Archer's
channel.
in trouble. Archer is throwing a lot of damage out if best he can, but Utapon is definitely winning this one out.
Oh,
Heavy
heavy!
stops that massive engage. Boogie's probably going to fall here as well. That's a big Mega Inferno bomb. Boogie's trying to run away, but Utapon gets the kill. Now Reyna's stuck in no man's land, and it's 4-1 in kills, and DFM are running away with this early game.
They are.
Pass. Oh no, it'll be 5-1. Never mind.
Never mind indeed. It's like a 3,000 gold. Raiders put on the other side as well. This is horrible. It's going to be 6-1 even.
Crab Brave,
Crab Brave,
because
yeah. Yugi is
V3 are gone.
V3 are gone.
It's a full ace.
It's a full ace. It's going to be a dragon as well. A lot of the kills going over to the Aphelios of all people as well.
0-2.
Honestly, really huge from Ebby there to cancel the Call of the Forge God reactivation with the Mega Nod just as he timed out as well. Slivers of the Rage Bar really lasting there. And yeah, huge early game advantage to DFM. What else do you want me to say?
Let's look at this here. Look at the hook. Archer still has no summons available.
Yeah.
He's screwed. The teleports are something, but that Gnarl, just keep an eye on
And
it.
they don't have the Galio ult anymore. They don't have the Galio ult.
No, they don't.
They tried to use it on a pick and steal. They go for the play anyway. I think it's just a bit of an overstay from V3's bot lane. Archer really not getting the best of this early game here. Great hook from the gang there. Around the Scuttle Crab, curving the bullet, curving the hook. And yeah, Reyna found out by Utapon as well there at the end of that play.
And now it's going to be a pretty difficult spot. The alcove play might be something they found.
There's
The way
level
to
6 here
Splash.
from Gang.
Yeah, he's thrown the depth
Yeah.
charge out. Oh, Archer, buddy. He's in a difficult spot. He's sure to fall. They're hooking onto Reina as well. He hasn't got anywhere. It's going to be another double kill in this bot side. And this lane is over.
This is looking. This is the kind of point where at the end of the game, like you at least hover the intentionally feeding teammate there.
Oh, Ace is going to try and find his way out. He's justice punching forward. Boogie's around as well, but that's a fantastic satchel charge. And the pillar's good as well, but Boogie's around, going to dissuade any further engage. But Steel's actually got level 6 before Boogie as a result of that fight earlier on.
Yeah, and actually just the amount of XP you get from like 5 kills
Who
compared
needs
to
Terrell for first towers these
who needs
days?
that? And the chakrams are out for Utapon. At least, Archer is going to be here to clear the rest of this lane here.
Yeah,
There's 4
I'll
plays over to side of Utapon solo in this lane though.
He is, and yep, gold per player.
Oh my god, that's like a double gold lead there.
One of these is not like the other, and that person is Aphelios, who apparently wasn't nerfed when it came to Utapon's play. He's 2 levels up!
Yeah.
Oh my days, he's going to try and kill him off. He's actually forced the heal out of Reina just from, like, throwing that out. That's pretty big.
He got the double long strike.
Oh, Boogie's here, though. He's going to try and start this. I'm not sure he wants it, though.
There's no mana on Utapon. And of course he has his ult as well. He had the Void Rush available. I think maybe there was a chance that could work out, but I guess he didn't know where Gang was, and you don't necessarily know what your follow-up is either.
No, you don't. And they're going to at least get a plate and return here, and that's something to staunch the bleeding. But we can sort of see the mindset Utapon is.
Yeah, looks like he's using the ult here to clear the wave because he sees that still probably coming up.
The wave isn't fully cleared, though, and that's actually going to be slightly problematic. They're going to throw the boulder toss in. They're thinking about it. Now they're going to have to back
well
away.
played by Pass. Really well played there.
Yeah, that ward in the tri-brush behind there was pretty key.
Yeah, he knows he's momentarily on the weak side of the map. Plays defensively very well. One of the big things in this game, at least, is that, for once, Ace is not seriously far behind.
Still 10 CS, but that's kind of what you expect to an extent versus the poke matchup.
Yeah, when you're a melee champion who doesn't build AD and stuff like that. I mean, Galio finds it really hard to last hit a lot of the minions, which means it's really telegraphed the timing window where you have to walk up and try and auto-attack minions, particularly when you don't have your Q or your passive available. So Seros, making the most of that. But of course, Seros has been under threat as well. Doesn't have himself any defensive items yet. And the duo between Rek'Sai and Galio is a lot of burst damage early into the game.
Yeah. Also, it's worth pointing out, Steel to pick up the Rift Herald while that bot lane shenanigans were going on. So that's something that's available for DFM. That's kind of where he came from to start that top lane dive, potentially. And where Boogie had a great run over the objectives in the last game, this time it's DFM who've got sole control over those.
They have at least the Archer's managed to keep himself up in CS, currently almost at a 10 CS lead somehow or other. I guess that's just because the amount of fighting that's happened. Some of the waves may have been missed by Utapon. Seros is coming down for a potential dive here.
Yeah, and we are seeing a bit of a dive.
They know that
Galio's got ult. Galio's got ult. Remember, they're thinking of turning this around. They're just wanting to kill the tower. It's done. They forced the flash. Here comes the teleport. They're going to try and get on top of this Aphelios, but that's a decent Mega Inferno bomb. Takes a lot of damage. That bullet time, is stunning, but that is a great stopwatch to keep Gang alive. He just goes forward to get the hook in on Boogie. There comes the Galio ult. They're going to try and Gravitum Q. Binding Eclipse enough to turn that around. It's a 1-for-1 thus far, but DFM are continuing to shove in. Look who's here. Nas here. He's going to try and get a Mega Gnar into the wall. That's pretty big. The final chapter that's going to try and keep people alive. Archer is still there, but has to burn all his summoners one more time.
Okay, so still a 1-for-1, all things said and done. Paz not managing to find his way down there because he's got the Spellbook Ignite instead of a teleport available, and of course the teleport was used earlier in the game, and in the early game, teleport has a very long cooldown nowadays. It's a summon as well with a scaling cooldown. The higher level you are, the lower cooldown it gets, and you're not that high level yet.
Yep, but it is another kill onto Utapon. It's first tower, and this fight
good flash
was a great flash. Both, and we'll have to see how this continues. That's a decent teleport.
It is actually, and the taunt comes in really big here. Taunt's up long enough that the bullet time's pretty scary. Boogie didn't manage to find any way into that fight. Actually gets dragged through the minefield, which was pretty huge there. Has himself the Galio magic shield, but there's no magic damage coming through. Aphelios is all physical damage at the end of the day. And Ebby finds his way down to the bot lane before Paz does himself.
Yeah, it is, and that means all the summoners now burned from that bot side lane again. And Archer, we said that basically that Misfortune needs to be very aware to try and keep herself safe.
Herald's summoned mid lane.
They are going to try and get some plates in here, but V3 are around to contest. They get a shot off, but not before the eye comes out. They'll get the plates here. Boogie's around the back. They're going to try and potentially look for an engage, but DFM wisely back away. and they're going to look towards this Ocean Drake that has spawned.
They haven't managed. Yeah, they did manage to get themselves the first dragon. This is, which means that they are on track for an early soul if they were to pick this up as well, picking up 2 of the early game drakes. Not sure V3 have either the vision or particularly, well, they don't have the positioning to contest this as well. Looks like Boogie would rather trade for some top lane pressure, knowing that Ebby doesn't have flash.
Gonna try and get in on him here. The Narbar's about to run out, and he's kind of aware he's alone up here, and he's like, yeah, I need to run away. Boogie's not going to be able to find that Nar for now. Yeah, no, the Tremor Sense shows that he's still backing away, and that will be the end of it. Second Drake goes over to DFM. 9 kills to 2, and it is a 5,000 gold lead for DFM at 13 minutes.
It is. The good thing is for V3, at least as a Cloud Soul, that's not the strongest soul. Tower goes down in the mid lane, also pretty bad, puts it up to more like a 6,000 gold lead, and this Misfortune is absolutely anemic, has a Caulfield's Warhammer to an Infinity Edge. Boogie might actually be found out here by the team of DFM as well.
They are, and he's just going to blast plant his way out. That will keep him safe. And you were talking about how V3 really wanted to get on top of DFM. Get in there, throw that Galio in on top of it. Might be a little harder when there's a GLP on this Ziggs.
In some ways, but I think actually because it's gap closes rather than movement speed used on the V3 engages, and particularly looking at the gap, the Rek'Sai flash really, Ebby sniffed out the last dive pretty well. Looks like he's seen the team approaching here.
I don't think he's got a choice here. He's going to try and dodge his way out best he can, but I think he's just dead to rights. Yep, he's done.
Welcome to the bounce house, Ebby!
Steel's here, though, and they're going to try and at least save this turret, but incoming Archer and Reyna, they're going to at least look to push down this tower. Rift Herald spawns a little while, and actually Archer decides, nope, and zoomies and struts his way back to the mid lane.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, that's a kill for an ultimate trade. That's it. There's a bit. I mean, you had to invest the time to get up to the top lane and stuff, but at least it's an efficient. You get something, and it's an efficient use of stuff as well. Like use the Call of the Forge God, but it's not like you use the Galliwall. It's not like you use the Void Rush as well, which means that DFM don't have too many counterplays in terms of big fights they want to go for right off the bat. Anyway.
Yeah, and we see 1,000 gold lead for Seros, big gold lead for this Aphelios, about 3. It's a slightly post-that kill for this Oln, though, who, because the wave got pushed and Ebby's had to back away from a couple of those, is actually down in CS right now.
Is indeed. Also, one thing to note is, of course, Ziggs has the satchel, has the ability to just really take down those turrets super quickly. So this top lane won't be long for the world. Might take the next wave to do it, but it will go down pretty quickly nonetheless.
Aphelios is here with Severum, so I don't think it is. It just goes down. And
It
yeah, that'll be third turret of the game for DFM. Now up to a 6,500 gold lead. Steel is here to start up this Rift Herald. They are on Vision, but Boogie and Ace are on the bot side. They just don't want to think about contesting.
Yeah, sure. And they might manage to trade themselves a turret. Doesn't look like Galio has demolished. That's one thing that you sometimes take on that champion.
Pass, though, might have just pulled an Ebby. Turning up in this side. The depth charge is down. He can't run away from that. Gang stepping in front to stop him backing away. Yeah. Sentinel turret's there. Utapon picks up his 7th kill of the game.
That's pretty huge. That's Paz, for once, actually not realizing the state of the game and understanding where the enemy team are. It's going to be another chunk of damage onto one of the top lane turrets. This time it's probably going to be another wave, and then the Satchel will take it down.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're trying to catch someone coming to defend it, but it looks like V3 might just give it up.
Don't think they have a chance. We look at Reyna and Archer. They are backing away. They will be on Vision, so they've got to be a little careful. There is no depth charge available, though, for the point-and-click CC, and I think they're safe enough where they are. It is 4th turret down, though, and this is what happens when a Ziggs is on a team at Snowball. You can just destroy structures in seconds.
The question is, does this snowball enough to get themselves a Baron, get themselves significant team fight wins and stuff? And that looks like V3 are just not committing to big team fights. They're trying to get back small bits of gold, get themselves, the outer turret in the bot lane. The problem is, eventually you are going to have to team fight. And you're going to have to team fight with like a full item and a half behind for your AD carry.
Is absurd as a difference in the bot lane. Aphelios with an Infinity Edge and Runan's Hurricane is difficult to deal with. I mean, Gang is the same level as Archer right now. And like...
This does remind me a bit of that Monty Python sketch.
There's quite a few.
So Archer walks up and kind of like has 2 small fish to slap you with. And
yes. You pull out the halibut.
Utapon has himself one monstrous sea monster to just like pull out of his back pocket and say, well, I mean, you could have slapped me with a fish.
What's a whale shark to the face to between friends?
Yeah. Something like that. There's also like there's a level advantage on the AD carries too. That's nothing to be sniffed at. It's only one level, but every level counts in these kind of games.
And it is the item discrepancy we're really paying attention to right now. Also worth pointing out, Cloud Drake will be spawning in 30 seconds, and Archer at least will have his summoners back up after that kind of forced to burn them in that very aggressive fight on the bot side.
Yeah, but there's like levels down on most of the roles for V3. There's level down in support, level down in AD carry. Well, I mean, it's just been even up in AD carry, but that will kind of be bouncing back and forth because it's probably be just under a level advantage for Yutapon. So every so often he'll crop up to that one level advantage. Importantly, there's a level down in the jungle as well. We know how that affects smite fights. Boogie used that very effectively on the Graves in game 2. So these are things to keep track of in this game. Oh, that's
Ace is
Herald summoning
potentially in a
bot
bit of
lane.
difficulty here. He's going to try and Justice Punch his way to victory, but that was a fantastic pillar to put him in very, very difficult position. He might have to flash out, but actually Gang and Yutapon have been caught out in transition. Gang's taken very low, but the aftershock
Boogie's
is
caught as
huge.
well.
Boogie's going to go down. He's out. Yutapon picks up that kill, but he's very low.
They have
And
no
Seros
damage.
flashing in for that satchel charge, forces Ain
They
back.
have no
Double
damage.
kill for Yutapon. Archer's very low, and they just have no damage. You're absolutely right. Take a breath. DFM win another team fight. They're going to get the Cloud Drake as well. Seros is moving towards the bot lane to pick up their 5th tower of the game. Or sorry, 6th tower of the game. I misspeak. No, it was 5th. They just destroyed it as I was speaking about it and I misread the map. That's exactly what that was. So I should have trusted my guns. And that Aphelios, 9-0-2.
Yeah.
Mash Swan was asking, what do we think about the bot lanes? Well, maybe this tells you a lot of story.
Well, there's something to be said about that. I think that a lot of this game was just Archer and Reyna not playing respectfully around the bot lane. They lost a lot of summoners early. They stayed to defend the turret, which was kind of dead to rights. And then they kind of dug themselves a bit of their own grave and then kind of dug it an inch too deeper as well with each time they stayed in.
What a fantastic pillar.
It's a good pillar there as well, which forced Ace to really try and disengage that fight. And of course, the Herald was left alone with his tower as the play went on. And as much as that's an okay knock up onto Yutapon, amongst other things, like, there's no sticking power. There's no staying power. Like, Archer has himself one item tops here, and he does decent damage onto Seros with the Yuumi as well, giving the increased stats. It's just not enough at this point.
Yeah, and this time around, the Gnar playing weak side is still finding relevance. The Ornn that had got the advantage has gone towards that Iceborne Gauntlet, has got himself a Sunfire. He's the one who's got the lane pressure this time around because of the way that DFM have been playing so heavily around Yutapon, which, makes a lot of sense right now.
Yeah.
But frankly, I would take a 9-0-2 Aphelios with 3 items complete versus an Ornn with 2 any day of the week.
And the other thing is that it's a Phantom Dancer, right? So having a Phantom Dancer on your fed carry gives you a bit more safety with that lead. He has 1,000 gold to give away if he dies. 700 shot gets shut down on top of the 300 for the kill. He's very safe with his lead right now.
And despite engaging him in the last one, he didn't have to burn summoners.
He's got heals, got flash, he's got everything.
Yeah, and what do you get? The guy who's got everything. Mid lane tier 2 what they would like. Infernum is starting to stack up here with Yutapon throwing down all the fire and fury he can. Mid lane tier 2 goes down and V3 disengage without any losses, apart from the mid lane structure.
It is, and it just feels so difficult for V3 to come into this game. Most of the time, when we asked the question on cast about what does a one team fight look for V3? How do you overcome this deficit? I think you got to start by selling your kidneys in this game, V3. It's looking pretty bad.
It is.
Desperate
black market desperate deals are what you need, because this Baron would not be long for the world with 3 items on an Aphelios, and DFM are happy to try and force a fight here. They know they are in a monumental advantage. There is no vision.
At least they have all their ultimates available to them, but trying to fight into a choke point versus the Ziggs, as much as you're playing with an MF, just the item disparity right now means that fighting into a choke always going to go the way of DFM.
Going to start it up, I think, or they just kind of try and bait it. Seros is going to push out the mid wave. He's completely safe there. They've got vision. Boogie's going to wander in. Tremor Sense is big, and they're starting it up now. Ace is here, so is Boogie. They're trying to get something. They've got to pick onto Ace. He takes a lot of damage. The Magic Shield or something. That's a pretty good bullet time, but Ebby gets a good Gnar onto both the mid laner and the jungler, and they both just die. That will be 11 kills, thank you very much, for Yutapon, and it'll be a Baron for DFM as well. This game is pretty much unwinnable now for V3.
This is a montage highlight reel for Yutapon. This is the kind of thing you see front page of Reddit where it's like, oh man, crazy outplay. Turns out the AD carry had 11 kills when making that play. You don't see it too often in the pro scene, but I mean, they're making it work.
The mid lane turret does fall, which is something
wow.
I'm trying to find something because the silver lining is looking like it was drawn in with crayon right now. That's the best they've got.
Wow, you have a silver crown?
Yeah, because within the death chamber, all they've got is grey and the silver lining of the clouds they're drawing on the prison cell, because it's all they're spending their time in. Let's look at this replay again.
This is a really good turn here. That's actually a really good satchel to knock Paz out of the second part of the Call of Forge God. It's not the first time he's had it cancelled this game. Some really good awareness from DFM to cancel that ability, knowing that it is one of the turnaround mechanics which V3 have. And I genuinely don't see how V3 have a standard way into this game. You're looking for craziness at this point, but you don't even have the stats to really back up a lot of that craziness right now. You don't have the scaling. You don't have you don't have like the scaling jungle in the Graves. You don't particularly have a outscale in the bot lane either. Ebby might walk into something.
He
though.
has. He's got to hop away, but Boogie's still there. He might have to fight. Oh no, that's just obnoxious slows coming in from the boomerang. He's forcing the back 1v2.
Yeah,
that's so pretty telling. He's 3 levels up on Boogie.
Exactly. You know, you have to look for mistakes, and that was nearly one. But even then, I'm pretty sure that Boogie can turn around. He had himself a flash available. Yet you can probably survive up until the Mega Gnar comes in.
He was very close stacked.
Very close stack to it too, yeah. So, not looking so great for V3.
Yeah.
Sorry, is that too simple? Do you want me to analyze it anymore?
I mean,
what would you like my opinion on, Sam?
Like there is the weather reader in Family Guy, and at one point he goes, "It's raining sideways," and that's kind of what it feels like right now. It is Storm Force 10 as DFM are coming in, and I don't think V3 and the rest of the squad are going to try to manage their way to that because actually the team fight's starting. So I'm going to have to leave that point alone.
Getting 1v1 by Gang.
Is getting 1v1 by Gang. They've forced out the Galliot. The tower's already gone. That's a decent Torn, but that's only onto the Nautilus.
Oh God,
and the Mega Inferno Bomb melts that true ice of the Rek'Sai. He's gone as well. So is Archer. It's another double for that. The satchel charge from Ziggs is huge. He's onto the fountain. He doesn't care at all. Reyna is the last man alive, along with Paz, who's somewhere out there trying to clean out waves. It's the best he's got because these Nexus turrets are falling and DFM are going to take us to match point.
And let me just scribble down on a little post-it hit. Felios, good. DFM take the lead in the series once again. 2-1. Game 3 is over. They strike first blood in this glorified best of 3. So, coming off of that spectacle, witness, scenario, Master1, what do you make of it?
A stomp. That's what it was. It was it was just a stomp basically from minute 2. I mean, that was not kind of how I had it go in my head. I thought that would be a 35-minute game. That was a 24 40 something game, and to be honest, DFM basically felt like they couldn't be stopped. Arguably, obviously, this was the bot lane of Gang and Yutapong going.
You hover over the report button very quickly.
Yeah, going.
You know that you're a friend, but you do question yourself.
I mean, you've had to solo queue with me, so you already know what that feeling is. Oof.
Yeah. Yes.
We know Archer and Reyna like to outplay the dives. We know they like to outplay that. They did it in game 2, and that kind of actually helped them snowball that kind of pressure that DFM were putting down against them. This time around, they walk into Steel. They try to burn summoners. They don't. They burn their own. Then Gang lands a hook. Then he lands another, and that bot lane is over. It is just flat out over. It was bot lane difference really hard that game, and Boogie found the 1 kill in the mid lane.
No, the mid 2v2 is good, but like Galio needs someone else to really back him up, and if you don't have an AD carry, your team fights aren't going to work.
Yeah. And Steel knew the win condition, which was get that bot lane going. Seros turns up to towers, and Ebby was like, well, I guess I'm playing weak side this time around.
I mean, to be honest, that was just DFM doing what they got. They got given the opportunity, so they were like, we'll take it. Boogie looked very strong early on the Rek'Sai, as he usually does, but the problem is if you don't really get those early pickups and prevent a Yuumi misfortune lane, which can be very deadly, but the problem is it's also very delicate in the early game.
I think the real turning play for me, thinking about it, was when Boogie found Steel on the Gromp, and Ace just wasted his ult. Well, rather, like, he didn't time it correctly. It was a really good pillar from Steel to disengage. But, you know, like, effectively, if they timed that better, they could have had Rek'Sai knock up into Galliot, and that would have been permanent CC into the tournament, whatever. Steel would die 2 times within a couple of minutes, and then the bot lane would have been free to push into the bot side and start regaining some of that lead. They immediately went for a fight after the Galliot was down, and then snowballed into oblivion.
It was, that team fight around that dragon when the Gnar managed to interrupt the Call of the Forge God, where Archer got caught again. That was a 5 for nothing. Like, that is a rough start
Yeah. It's
I mean, so much went wrong in that early first fight, and then from there it just scaled up. Obviously, Utapon and Gang were just able to start diving Archer and Reina over and over and over again, and from there the lead was just almost, you couldn't stop the bleeding. It was too big. You hit an artery, you can't stop it. Basically, at that point, you need to go and see the doctor. You need a Soroka, but you don't have one, so you don't have an ambulance. What can you do?
You have a cat. I can offer you a cat in this trying time.
Not quite an ambulance on wheels now, is it?
Unfortunately not. But yeah, no, the thing is, I actually quite like the draft from V3. I think it was really big of DFM to know they had the stronger level 1 with the Nautilus. Walk in, get yourself early wards, make sure that your bot lane is strong side of the map for DFM. Just shut down Archer and Reina. They didn't play respectfully, punish them for their disrespect, and game's over.
Am I right in assuming that the bot lane of V3 wants to basically hit 6, then they're fine? Then they can start disrespecting? Well, they're really happy.
If they stay even, you know, they get themselves a couple of items onto Miss Fortune. We saw what happened in game 1, right?
Sure.
If you don't have this severe lead, not severe because it's a Miss Fortune, but, you know, yeah, if you come into the team fights with, you know, 2 items and then you put down ults, because we saw what happened in that fight around the bot lane when the bot lane outer turret went down, right? We had the Galio taunt into the bullet time. If you have more damage on that, you have 2 items. That is a lot of dead people. A lot of dead people. There's only so many defense. There's only so many ways you can disengage from that because you just permanently CC'd into one of the highest damage spells in the game.
Yes. And like on the other side though, like Miss Fortune Yuumi, how do you counter it? You hard engage on it where Yuumi can't make you walk away.
Nautilus is
and
really
Nautilus with his 3 forms of CC, one of which is point and click. 4 actually. 4. Again, I apologize. This is why I am the play-by-play.
There's like 5 actually.
Just a lot of CC, pretty much everything. His auto CC for crying out loud. Yeah. Like he has so many ways to deal with that. Miss Fortune has no way of escaping herself, and we saw how many times they burnt the summoners down there, and like that bled so hard. Like it's all well and good knowing you've got a weak side to play around, but they didn't play like that. Is the problem.
That's the problem. And it was disrespect, and they were punished accordingly.
I mean, sometimes that's just how your games go. Sometimes it's just, even at the highest of most professional levels, sometimes a team can just have a fall apart moment, and then it sometimes is too big of a fall apart moment. Remember, almost, I think the whole side of V3 was unofficially aced when they went for the 05. So, I mean, you just kind of shrug your shoulders at that point. But with that all said, DFM, as initially I said earlier, have match point. V3 are now looking for that win. We're going to go on a very short break, and we'll be right back momentarily with more LJL action coming from the LJL League. Crazy that, isn't it? Crazy. If I keep saying LJL, it keeps happening. Anyway, we'll have a very short break here. Take care.
Bye.